My name is Junior. My name is Junior Toussaint, and born in Haiti, raised in the United States, and I was recently shipped back to Haiti. Um, One day, my birth parents, who are somewhere in Haiti still at this moment, I believe, um, my father used to send, as I recall, used to send boats in the early 90s to attempt to get to the United States. So after sending a few boats that did make it into the United States or intercepted by Coast Guards and were proceeded to allow to enter the United States legally, I would say afternoon, I was there seeing the next boat off to take a chance at a new life or a better life, you could say. And my father was saying bye to all the people on the boat. And my father looked down at me and he just picked me up and said, "You're gonna go." And he just picked me up and threw me on a boat with the rest of the people that was attempting to go to the United States for a better life. So it wasn't planned, it wasn't something he thought about. I was just at that place and he picked me up and he put me on a boat. And I still to this day remember my mother, my birth mother, running across the pier trying to get the boat to stop so she can get me off, because she did not authorize that. But obviously that never happened. I later on did find out my mother did put my father in jail for doing that and sending me off. So that's how my story started, from Haiti to United States. And I just recall waking up in the bottom of the deck of the boat in the middle of the night by just U.S. Coast Guard telling me to wake up and go on top of deck, where they were taking all the Haitian refugees from our boat to a U.S. Coast Guard boat and putting us aboard. And once we were aboard their ship, our boat was lit on fire, and we watched it burn down. And for me, I was alone, but I did have some cousins on the boat. So my father did tell me a story particular to tell whoever got me or found me where I would end up, to tell them that I had brothers in the United States and I had a paper with their names, so I was supposed to just give it to someone with authority. But my cousins being on a boat, instead of allowing me to do that, they claimed me as their own brother, so I could go through the proceedings just as they did. So I would be a part of that family. And we were taken to Cuba, Guantanamo Bay, where I cannot recall exact extent of time, but I do believe at least 3 to 5 months stayed there as we were going through the process of being allowed to enter the United States as parolees. And when I entered the United States, my half-sister from my father's side, Allah, came and picked me up at Miami, I would say, International Airport. I went with her, and then all my cousins, now brothers, went with my uncle. And that's where I separated from them. And from that moment on, I just remember all the bright lights, all the craziness of difference for me as a child, and just taking it all in. Scared, but understood that I was with family, so I understand I was safe. I do remember eating my first American meal. It was KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken. So I enjoyed it. And then we went to Homestead, where my half-sister mother resigned. And along with, I want to say, her 5 or 6 kids, plus my sister's 3 kids, all under the same roof, and now adding me. So we can say it was a very pack house. But everyone made it work. But unfortunately for me, I was an outsider from the beginning. Because my language varied, that I didn't speak English correctly yet or at all, or the fact I was by myself. I wasn't, would say, family member. I was related to one person and one person only. But for me, I just found a way to just get along and be part of something. And I would say after a couple months of living there and just trying to figure out where I'm at and with my life, being so young and lost, but that's when everything was not what I hoped it would be in the United States. Going to school in Miami in the early 90s, being a Haitian, you were picked on, beat up, abused, and that's something I was not accustomed to, something that still to this day, I never understood why, but I would say now I accepted it and I understand. But after going to school and starting for a couple months and trying to cope with the situation, my sister's half mother, when something would go wrong in the house, we would play outside in the rain and come mess up the house, or we would just do something we wasn't supposed to, and we're all kids. But somehow, I would say because of the fact I was not blood family, all the stress and all the abuse was taken out on me more often than her own kids. So I took a lot of the blame. So I would say after about 6 months of that, my sister, God bless her soul, and I understand why she did it, she picked up and we moved out of the situation because she wanted to protect me. And she can see that between the abuse at school or going to school and at home, that wasn't a place for a child like me. So we moved to West Palm Beach, where now my cousin / my brothers and my uncle live. And so my sister moved there because she would get the help that she needed to help her with her 3 kids plus me, which pretty much was like her kid. And at that point, for me, things even got worse because I was no longer a child at that time. I was taking care of myself, well, at least attempting to take care of myself, but taking care of my 3 nephews. So my sister worked, and I did the cooking, the cleaning, getting my nephews ready for school, taking care of everything that needed to be taken care of around the house. So that's where I started, I would say, struggle even more in certain things because as a 11-year-old kid, you cannot take care of yourself. I gotten very sick in my head. I'll call it wingworms, where my hair, my head, everything would be falling off. So I got very sick. I was removed from school. And then being removed from school, I would stay home while my nephews go to school. And I remember one of the darkest moments of my life. Now, as an adult, I've shared it a lot more than when I was a kid. I was home along with my nephew, Rudy, and someone was supposed to be watching us. And unfortunately, that day, me and Rudy was raped by a man at the age of 11, and Rudy was, I want to say, 8 or 9. He was drunk on drugs or something of that source, but yes, we thought we did something wrong. He took us to the bathroom, and being the raised we were raised, just you're going to get a whooping for doing something wrong, but instead he made us lean against the bathtub and put shampoo on our backside and took advantage of me. My nephew was too young, so luckily for him it did not happen, but for me it happened. And I was raped. And of course I was scared, but I did tell my sister what happened. And she gave him, the person who raped me, a whipping, but in my mind to this day, that still wasn't enough to what happened to me, because I didn't deserve what happened to me, I believe. So, but from when that happening, my brother, one of my half-brothers that lived about 2 hours away, heard of the situation and came and got me from my sister's care and brought me to Fort Pierce, where I would say that was the first time I was able to become a child, because I wasn't taking care of someone else. I wasn't getting abused by someone else. I was allowed to be a child. And then he took care of me and also helped me with my damaged head and hair and get me back to the right medical care I needed. And that was actually one of the best years of my life as a child.
How old were you at this time?
I would say I was about 11 and a half, 12. And so by then I went to 4th grade. A woman changed my life. Her name is Miss Frederick. She wanted to help me learn English properly. So she asked the school to give 1-800 hooked on phonics for me, but the school wasn't in the budget, and she went out and paid with her own money and got it for me and taught me every day how to properly learn and read English. So until now, I am forever grateful of that teacher. Excuse me. And so by then, I was a child. I was able to, be a child. And unfortunately, that did not last long, because my brother was involved in the wrong things. And I remember one day going to school and coming home, my brother and his girlfriend was not there, which was normal for us. And the next day we go to school, me and my brother's girlfriend's daughter, we go to school, come back, still no one comes home. And for us, that's normal, which we were fine. We knew where everything was we needed. And so, and about, I would say a week later, my sister, about 3 days later, one of cousins of distant cousin or cousin came to the house and took us and told us we had to go stay with them for a couple of days, which it was no harm. We went there, and after a couple of days, my sister came back into the picture and came and got me and said I had to go back with her to Homestead. Well, I found out later on my brother was arrested and did quite some time in prison. And so I went back to Homestead, and it was better because now I spoke a little bit more English. I knew how to remove myself from certain situation at the house. I would just go to the park. I would just stay out as long as I could to avoid the abuse or the hard living. So I would do that. And I remember in 6th grade, now I'm 6th grade, again in Homestead. And I would say it was better, but where I was resigned home, it still was rough for me. So the abuse again started again for me and for my nephews, I would say. So my sister again picked up, and we moved from Homestead to Bradenton, Florida. And I would say Bradenton, Florida was, wow, a life-changing, just life-changing. Country, woods everywhere, and coming from Homestead, it's city, and but it was different. And we were there. We didn't stay there long because my sister could not do it on her own. So went back to Homestead. And again, just living wasn't that good for us. So she picked up and tried again to Bradenton. And we did better. But by then, again, I was taking care of my nephews, taking care of myself, and just finding ways to survive. And by that time in Bradenton, we had moved a few more times within the city limits itself, but just my sister was trying to provide for us. So as much as she can, where she would go to find the cheapest rent to provide for us, food, shelter, she was trying, breaking her back. And but again, about a year later, we moved back to Homestead, and we stayed there for a while. By then, I played sports, so I stayed away from home all the time. I find my scapegoat to never be home. And by now, my nephews were taking most of the abusing because they were younger. They were there still. And I guess my sister's mother was just frustrated of how much people is in the house. And I understand as an adult sometimes you just can get frustrated with stuff you can control by kids you don't understand sometimes. So one last time we moved back to Bradenton. And by now, I understood America, I understood people a little bit more, and I understand what in life I wanted and what I didn't want. So we moved around a bit in Bradenton, but by then again, I'm making friends, I'm staying, learning how to treat myself as a human being. And we were in Bradenton for a while, and then again back to Homestead. And we were in Homestead for a little bit, and back to Bradenton. It was rough. Sometimes you go to school, and I came home, it would just pack your stuff, we're moving. Don't say bye to friends from school, don't say bye to anything, just pick up and move. And then 10th grade year, I want to say in Bradenton, my sister wanted to move again back to Fort Pierce, where she believed she would find a better job and have help from family members. Well, that was for the first time in my life. I put my foot down and said, no, I'm not moving. Don't know why, but I just had it. And I said, no, I like it here. I go to school, I play the sports, I have the friends, and by now I had a job working at Dairy Queen, so I could provide for myself. So one of my cousins convinced his father he would share his room with me at his house and bring me to school, even though we went to 2 different schools every day, if it would be okay that I stayed there with him so I didn't have to move. He pled for me, I cried, and the decision was yes, I was able to stay in Bradenton. And I was ecstatic, happy, and just a kid, a big kid, but a kid. And at that time, that's when.
How old were you at this time?
At this time, I would say 16. And at that time, that's when I started getting invited to this crazy activity after school called Young Life. It's just a bunch of weird white Americans that want to love on you and show you love and games, and then at the end just tell them that God loves you and God has a plan for you. And I remember this woman named Bridget Shea always invited me, because everyone knew me. I played the sports, and I always said, no, I don't want to go. This is weird. I'm not going. And one day, I was like, I don't have a ride home. If you could bring me home, I would go. And she said, yes, that's easy. We'll bring you home. Full of energy. And I went. And wow, that day changed my life forever. The game we played that day, too, was funny. We played I remember the name, but they took a brand new toilet that wasn't put together, but they put M&Ms, Milk Duds, and Mountain Dew in it. And you had to stick your head and pull it out. I thought it was weird, but I played it. I had fun. And I loved that club. It's Monday night. It was Young Life Bayshore High School. And from that moment on, I went every Monday. Every Monday I was there. I invited everyone I knew to go there. And that's when I met some of the most influential people in my life. Tim Jones, Eric, and now I would say my parents, Dan and Kirsten Chantier. They just knew I was special, they said. And they wanted to be there for me and help me out. So as they became part of my life and always checking on me, going to my games, making sure I was okay, making sure I had food to eat. And by then my sister had moved back to Bradenton, and I had moved back in with her. And by now she had bring in one of my brothers, well, not even my brother, he's her brother, but I call him brother. So he came and he lived with us. And at that time I was working, going to school, going to my Young Life, but every time I would go home, all the people that paid attention to me from Young Life, once a week they saw me, or on the weekends they would invite me places. Whenever it was time for me to go home, I would go from being high energy to very happy to like, oh, I really gotta go home now. Oh man. So little by little, they just started to ask questions like, hey, what's going on? Like, how's home? And oh, it's okay. And of course I didn't wanna put her down or saying she's not trying, but I would just, seeing if I could hang out with you guys for a little longer. And so by then they talked to my sister one night and they're like, hey, is there anything we can do? So by then they started bringing groceries to the house for us, helping my sister out, taking me and my nephews away on the weekends just to bring us to church activities or just invite us to pools or wherever they can take us to take the stress off my sister. And while my brother was there, I was still working, he would find a way to take my money. My money I had, I would hide it in my sock drawer. I would hide it in my pillow. I would have it in my pocket. Somehow he would take it from me. And tell my sister nothing would happen. And by then my relationship with Dan and Kirsten has gotten stronger and better. And this is probably, so from then, I would just try to find ways to go to their house after school or after practice and like, hey, may I get a ride home? So that's less time I spend at home. And funny thing is, that summer of my sophomore year, I said I had enough again. I left my sister's home, lived with friends, and by then my sister had hatred for me because I left. I wanted to do better for myself, so I left. And so I continued my life, and I just started living with friends, renting rooms, and that's through all junior year. And I used to tell people at school also on Mondays when Kirsten would go to the school and invite people to Young Life, like, hey, that's my mom. Don't know why, but it was in my heart to start calling her mom. before she went and did what she did for me later in life, but I'll get to that. So I ended up living with a good friend of mine, Ryan Gordon. That was by now, it's beginning our senior year. It was him, his brother's best friend, his brother's girlfriend, and me. We lived together, but unfortunately, my friend Ryan, after a few months, went down the wrong street, just getting in the wrong activities. So his parents made him move back home, and so by now it's just me and his brother and his brothers. So because I was paying so little amount of rent, they decided to move a complete stranger into my room to share rooms with me and a bed to help with rent. But for me, that was the only place I had to go, so I had no say-so. And so at that time, the guy name was Keith. He was good. He was nice. And he was clean, and we talked a lot. And he had told me how he was going to get an apartment with 3 bedrooms, and one was his, one was a friend of his, and the other one was free if I wanted to join, because he can tell the living situation was not good here. And for me, it was a great opportunity. I took up on his offer, and we went and lived together. But again, just like I felt when I first came to the United States, just like I felt when I went back to Homestead every time, I didn't fit in. By now, I'm 18 years old, 17 and a half, 18 years old, and I live with 25-year-olds that go out, work career jobs, and here I am still going to school. So I stayed in my room a lot. And I want to say after four months, I could hear them talk bad about me, put me down, basically didn't want me living there anymore. They wanted someone their age to live there and to be part of their living situation. And so by then, Dan and Kirsten was still a big part of influence in my life. I was spending holidays with them. I would go to their house. They would make sure I was okay. And they would talk to me probably every day to check on me, make sure I was okay. And then I was working at Outback Steakhouse as a dishwasher. And one day, I still don't remember why, I was fired. I remember telling Dan and Kirsten what happened. And I went home and I told the guys, hey, what happened? Lost my job, but I'm gonna get another job tomorrow. And that was morning, I went to school, went to practice. Later on that evening, I came home. When I got home, the little stuff that I did have was thrown in the front yard and everywhere. And I knocked on the door, and I remember Keith looking at me still to this day and said, we don't want you here anymore. And you don't have a job. How can you pay your rent? And he just slammed the door in my face. And for me, probably one of the scariest moments of my life, because now I've let Dan and Kirsten down, and I don't have a place to go, and I don't know what to do. So I just cried and begged for 20 minutes, and no help, no mercy upon me. So I remember just taking the little things I had, putting them on the side of the house, and just manning up and walking around and asking why and why me, until eventually I slept at a bus stop for a couple hours, and then I was like, wait, I'm gonna get arrested, I'm scared. So I found my way behind Ryan Gordon's house, and I spent the night in his back patio area. And in the morning I knocked on his window and just said, hey, can I get a ride to school? And went to school, told no one of what happened to me the night before, told them nothing of my situation, just wondering how can I get a job, how can I get out of this circumstance. And I'm in first period, just sad, don't know what's going on, trying not to let it get me down. And I I get the teacher say, Junior, you have a visitor. No, what can go wrong now? Because I just, in my mind, something happened and it's gonna get even worse, because that's what my life's been. And instead, I remember walking towards the office, and I look up, and here she is. My mother, Kirsten, she's standing in front of the office, big old smile, and just happy to see me. And for me, I'm just like, oh no, I gotta tell her what happened. She's gonna be mad at me. She's gonna be disappointed at me. And by the time I got there, she just was happy, and she gave me a hug, and she said, hey, how are you? I remember it to this day. How are you? And I said, I'm fine. And she said, hey, I know everything's rough right now, and we want you to know that God loves you, we love you. And she gave me an Old Navy baby blue jacket with white stripes on it, and told me, I know it's getting cold, so we want you to have this. And then, and then she said, and we also want you to have this. And she gave me an envelope with, I opened it, and it was my rent check for 2 months. They were gonna pay my rent for 2 months, so I didn't have to worry about being homeless or not knowing what to do. And that's when I just started crying. I just started crying and crying and crying, and she just grabbed me, embraced me, and told me, it's okay, it's okay. What's wrong? And I told her what happened. And she said, I'm so sorry to happen to you. I'm so sorry. And she asked me, where's my stuff? And I told her it was on the side of the house. And she goes, okay, don't worry. She pointed a spot outside of the school. And she said, you see that spot right there? And I said, yes. She goes, I'll be there at 2:05 to pick you up. Don't you worry about anything. We love you. God loves you. And everything's going to work out. And at 2:05 or 2:07, when I got there, she was there. She was there at the exact spot she said. And her Ford Expedition, just happy to see me. Just young, happy to see me. Took me home that day, let me know when my stuff was in the garage, and just told me, hey, we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna work this out. Don't worry, we got you. And that moment, I slept on the couch for like 2-3 days. And I remember her just taking me to shelters, trying to get someone to help me and to take me in. But I was in high school, and I don't think, like I was an adult, but in high school, so shelters couldn't take me. Adult shelters couldn't take me. Kid shelters couldn't take me. So a couple of days turned into a couple of weeks. Then I remember she asked my sister to get guardianship over me. And my sister signed a paper. I remember that day. And I stayed there. And as I stayed there longer and longer, so by then, the couch was no longer suitable for me because they had 2 daughters of their own, my sisters. So there was a half computer room. They said, hey, it's not a room full, but this is gonna be your new room right now until we figure it out. And I stayed there longer and longer and longer and longer. And for me, I already told people they were my parents. I was already telling people that. I don't know why, but I was already telling people, hey, these are my parents. And I remember the first time I met my sisters. I had on Friday night at a high school basketball game. I embraced them, they embraced me. And I've been in love with my sisters ever since then. And they treated me like family. But when I became in the room And I remember my mother started teaching me just daily life things, taking me my first restaurant to eat, taking me places that I've never been, going to Starbucks for the first time, silly things, but for me, that was important. She just wanted me to learn how to live. And so my first birthday, I remember it. My first Christmas with them, I remember it. And I remember one day just being home, they tell me to sit down, and they asked me, how do you like it? How do you like living here with us? And of course, for me, I'm like, I love it. Like, I was amazed. Every person that came and, give me a ride home or picking me up for something, I was like, yeah, these are my parents. And of course, it's two white people coming out and waving, or two little girls in the front yard playing. I'm like, yeah, those are my sisters. I was beyond blessed. And I remember the day they were like, so we thinking we need a bigger house. And for the first time, someone wanted my opinion. I remember they asked me where did I want to live, which never asked me this. No one ever asked me that before. Asking me and then I remember going to Bruce Williams' home, and then going to see models of homes. And I got to pick what type of house that we were gonna live in if we were building. Or my mom used to take me to these neighborhoods to pick out houses where I was where we would live, and I had an opinion. And for me, I was amazed and just crazy. So I was happy. And they told me, yep, we're gonna get a bigger home, and we wanna make sure you're okay. So there was options, and then eventually they found the best. Yep. And they found the best house. But before we even got there, something I can recall, where I lived with them before that, and how wonderful that was, where we lived. I used to go to a place called Shorewalk, and that's where I met, I would say, all my best friends in life. Gregory, Sam, Brother Michael, Edward, everyone that's still, I would say now in my life, close. And none of them are born in America. I would say that's crazy, but I used to go there a lot and hang out. And to bring me here full circle to where it put me. And by the time we move out of our old neighborhood, we move into this new neighborhood where my parents found the best house for the family. Me, future child, and my sisters. And so it had a mother-in-law house in the back. It was a big house in the front, little house in the back for me. It was perfect for the whole family. And it was close by to my mother's sister, Emily. We moved in there. It wasn't quite finished yet, but it was the perfect house for the whole family. And the next summer, my mother, and I loved it, suggested I did some volunteer work. So I went away for summer, which was great, just working with kids, like my parents worked with me when I was in high school. Amazing. Met some great kids, and then I came back, and that's when I found out that I was having a baby sister, Summer. So I already had two sisters, and I was getting a third one. And so after that summer, I became mentoring young kids, sixth graders, and just being there for them like my parents was there for them. So I did that for 2 years, and that was amazing. But I picked up, just started doing another thing, and just took away from my time, which I regret still, but everything happens for a reason. And from that moment on, I was working, staying active in my neighborhood, and then I I started learning how to DJ. There was a guy that I used to bring him music every Sunday, every Wednesday to this place called 30 something. I knew all the music that was coming out or it came out, and he never had it. So I remember every day I would download the music, put it on a CD, and bring it for him every Sunday and Wednesday. And then I remember one day he just told me, he was like, man, you want to learn how to do this stuff? I'm tired. And I was like, what? And I said, yes. And he taught me the most basic DJ move ever. Just press play and turn one up and turn one down as close as you can get to each other. And I played the rest of the night by myself, not knowing what I was able to do, what I was doing, but I did a good enough job and people knew me. I loved every second of it, every second. And so from that moment on, I just showed up every week ready to learn what else I can do. And unfortunately, that didn't last very long. The place was shut down within, I want to say after 1 month of me being there, because it's too rowdy and it was in the wrong neighborhood, so it got closed down. But for that short little experience, I gained something. And then one of my good friends, Aaron, became a club promoter. And I was an up and coming DJ. So we had lunch one day. He goes, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, and you're a DJ, and I think we could do this together. If we do this together, we'll split everything. I said, okay. So we got a Wednesday night someplace in Sarasota, Margarita Maggie's. No one would go there. No one was being there, but we continued trying out every week. And then finally one day, we did the best thing. We did a competition, and we were gonna give $1,000 away. And I knew three younger guys that knew everyone, plus I knew people. And I said, hey, Mike, David, if you can help me get people here, I will give you drinks for free. And those guys brought about 50, 60 people, plus the people we brought. So for two kids that didn't know what they were doing, we packed that place. And from that moment on, DJing became my passion. Still work during the daytime, but Wednesday turned into Wednesday and Friday, and then Wednesday turned into Friday, Saturday. So I was doing 3 nights a week and still not knowing how to DJ yet, but I had the following, so I was doing that, and it was just amazing. I loved every minute of it.
But at that moment, how old were you?
By then, I would say I was 20, 21.
So high school was finished?
High school was finished. I was going to Manatee Technical Institute after high school for a travel agent and carpentry. But my money grant, which was free money to go to school, was taken away from me because I wasn't a U.S. citizen. So the government took away my help. So after I think I did half a semester and find out how expensive it was, I stopped going because I couldn't afford to do it. So I stopped going to school. My parents understood, and I was doing good with working and DJing. So financially, it was good, but school would have been more important. But without the proper paperwork, you cannot go to school unless you have X amount of funds. So continues DJ, and by then, my parents and I found out that my sister in 2000 had applied for my permanent residency in the US, which is great. And when we got the letter, it was already 2 years later since she applied for it, but because I ran away in 2000 and had no connection, she didn't bother to get in contact with me, to let me know, or at least pass it to my cousins who I still had contact with. So I finally got a letter one day from immigration saying, if you don't come to Miami and do this interview, you're gonna get deported. And my parents being, I would say, not knowledge, and I'm not knowledge in immigration either at the time. I had school or something. The first time it was like, oh, we can't skip school, or my father had to work and my mother just had a baby or some sort. We couldn't make it with that short notice because it was within a day. So my parents just decided to write a letter, which that's the American way. You write, let them know, hey, we acknowledge we got this paper. Fortunately, we can't make it. Is there any way we can just reschedule? Well, that reschedule changed my life, because that reschedule would have been, if I would have just went, I would have been a permanent residency right then and there. It would have been over and done with. But because we rescheduled and letting immigration know I no longer lived in Miami, I lived in Bradenton, Florida, they transferred my case from Miami immigration office to Tampa immigration office. And once it got there, they basically started me all over for my process for a permanent residency. So I remember my mom going to see an immigration lawyer in Bradenton, and he told my mother, he told me and my mother, but again, not knowing the knowledge that we hope we did, he said, this case is very difficult, or it's not a normal case, because the fact is how I came, how everything was. He said, if I were you, even if you don't hire me, you should hire an immigration lawyer. Don't do this on your own. You could, but don't do it on your own. And at the time, it just seemed harmless to do it because it was almost done. We're just going to finish the process. And that process turned into 13 years. Every time we thought I was going to go and get it, they would throw a red flag and say, oh, we need proof of this. Oh, we need proof of this. And by then, now I had 2 alien number, which is how immigration identifies you. I had one the way I came into the United States, which is under a parolee, and I was allowed in the United States. Well, when my sister applied for my permanent residency, she did not have that information, so she got me a new number. So that's why the immigration lawyer told my mother, like, hey, you should hire a lawyer because he has this information, and we're like, oh, we know it, so we'll do it ourselves. And unfortunately, that was not the right decision. And every time I went, that's why they needed more proof that I didn't leave the United States, which I never did. Or have you worked? And I worked since I was 15. Like, so much information. And every time we, like I said, we thought we were clear, we get there, someone say, oh, we just need this little information, send it in, we'll be clear. And I remember the last time I went in for an interview, and this is probably 10 years into it now, if not, no, I would say eight years into it. It was a guy named Dan Meyer. I get there with my mother, and we walk in like, hey, and as soon as we get there, he basically said, she can't come in. I'm like, what? I don't know if he thought she was my girlfriend, but he's like, she can't come. I'm like, that's my mother. She adopted. No, okay, she can't come in. And when he takes me into his office and he pulls up my paperwork, he goes, well, you have 2 alien numbers. You have 2 birthdays. You have 2 this. How do I know you didn't leave the United States and come back? Why do I know this? How do I? And mentally grown, I wasn't. Like, I was still a child. So instead of having the right answers, I just broke down and cried and plead instead of, like, I haven't left, and crying. So it didn't help. And basically he told me, like, well, I'm not going to give it to you because I don't believe you're telling me the truth. And sent me on my way, more paperwork, and I remember certifying it, overnight it to him, everything he asked for, and heard nothing back. That was 2 years later. A year later, we wrote back. We said, hey, here's the proof. We sent everything, and nothing back. Then 2 years later, nothing back. By then, I'm still legal. I still have my license. I still work. I still do everything. It's just no permanent residency. I'm just still a.
Don't touch that.
Oh yeah. I am still a parolee and a parentless child, which that's what my permanent residency was filed under. It's called the HRIFA law. It's a child that come into the United States without either parent. And I qualify for that in every mean necessary. I have no parent. I'm in the United States by myself. And by then, I have no connection to my cousins / my brothers or my half-brothers. And my sister have not talked to me in years. So other than my parents, my foster parents, I have no family in the U.S. And I remember in 2009 now, it's 2009, I made a bonehead decision, and I live with it still. And I was driving, I got pulled over, and I've never been in trouble in my life, never broken the law, never did anything, and I get pulled over, and they asked me questions. I answered it truthfully. I got in trouble. I paid my debt to society. It was quick and simple. It was just one of those, here's a ticket, here's this, and have a merry day. I go about my business, and that decision, a $250 decision, changed my life for the worse. I would have never thought of it. I could say I could have lied. I could say I could have did a lot of things, but all I know is to tell the truth and to just, especially to authorities, and it changed. And I would say 2 years later, immigration sent me a letter and said, hey, we need you to come see us. So I went to check in. They said, okay, well, this is not what you should have been doing, so you have to find a way to get this off your record. I didn't know exactly what they meant by that, so I went and saw an immigration judge, and the immigration judge understood what happened, so gave me a protective custody. So I was a non-removable alien. So I was set. They wasn't gonna send me back, but now they wasn't gonna give me my permanent residency. I was just safe, but stuck in a loophole, as my mother called it. And that's been like that ever since. And then I would say in 2015, I got pulled over for DUI, but it was not a DUI. I ended up getting just a ticket because I passed every field test, all the sobriety tests. I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I filled a description, which was fine, and got a ticket. And now in 2017, August 2nd, I was picked up, asked for my name, gave my name, and taken into custody, and what they call is put an ICE hold on you. And I was put an ICE hold, had to wait for immigration because my protective status from the judge no longer exists with the new immigration laws that have been passed. because that was in 2009 or 10 that I got that. Now we're in 2015. Immigration law has changed. So I got waited for ICE. They put me in their detention center, and I thought I was gonna get released eventually, stay in America, and be with my family, and live my daily life. And instead, I spent 5 months in immigration custody, and then on October 23rd, a judge fined me. I basically don't have the right to stay in America anymore. That was the decision. I could have appealed it. Me and my family decided not to, because I still have the opportunity to go back, hopefully one day, by not appealing it, because immigration law, if you get a final decision from a judge, you are banned, a ban of minimum of 10 years, where what I selected to do was just accept the decision of the judge and go with that route. And I remember telling the judge my story. One of the times I saw her, she cried, my mother cried, I cried of my background. And she told me, we probably won't get that far. When I told her my home country, Haiti, does not have records of me or do not know who I am, she told me, hey, we probably won't get that far. From what I can see, there's no purpose of you getting sent back to your country. But that wasn't the case. At the end of the day, the decision was made. I moved, and I told her how I paid my taxes since I was 15. I told her how I own a business for 12 years, all the things I've accomplished in my community, everything that I've done to give back, none of it mattered. Her decision was I had to move on. I wasn't allowed to say bye to my family. I wasn't allowed to take what I have. I was just told I lost. You could take it or pill it, but that's just a loophole. They can hold you longer, and that's not something I wanted. So here I am now. I was deported to Haiti January 16th on my own, with no family, no anything. Not getting to say bye to my sisters, my mother, my father, anyone. And I spent time in Haiti, and now I am blessed to be in DR with loved ones and telling my story. And one thing I do believe is my story is just now for another chapter. It's not over. There is a bigger plan that I yet to see, and I don't know where it's going to take me, but I am confident in just saying I plan to leave the world a better place than I found it. I plan on just being best as I can be. I learned something a while ago. It's Ubuntu. I am because we are. And my story is not just about me, it's about how so many people has influenced me in so many ways to make me the man I am today. So what I believe is I never want to let these people down. So no matter what the circumstances is that happens to me personally, I will fight. I will stay positive. I will see the glass half full instead of half empty. And thank you for listening. Once again, my name is Junior Toussaint, and this is my story.
Thank you. I have a few more questions that people can understand more. Um, so explain me what happened in the country in terms of the law. You explained me before that Obama passed a law creating those IS, Immigration Security.
Mm-hmm.
And can you explain me why it was created?
It's a ICE, and what it was created for was to basically just patrol the border and to violent criminals in the U.S., terrorists, to be removed or to keep an eye out on them. Because, as you remember, since 9/11, the U.S. had just been under attack and so on. So ICE was created to monitor certain people or to keep certain people away or to remove certain people from the U.S. And that's all it was. And from my understanding, what I went through before 2017, you would see in that proceeding, you would go through a proceeding, but unless you were a killer or a violent person, they would allow you to stay in the country and just monitor you. Especially if someone like me, as I said before, I saw a judge early in 2000 where it was like, okay, you're fine. But when Donald Trump took over, he gave ICE department more authority, or as just as much authority as the FBI, the CIA, to do whatever or whenever they want. So they, in the US, they basically have their own vehicles now. They're basically officers above the law. And they can go to a neighborhood they know that's full of Hispanics, Haitians, or any people they believe perhaps may not be fully legal or expired visas or just there as trying to make a better life for themselves, and just go there and ask for ID. If you don't have ID, they taking you and put you in proceeding. Everyone in the United States now, except for a U.S. citizen, are eligible for removal. Removable. You're going to go through the proceeding. If you have criminal history and that's where they catch you from, they can do it two different ways. They can put you to proceeding and hold you in their custody, or they can give you a bond of $5,000 or higher and let you fight your case from the outside. Or they can just give you a court date. When they found you, especially if you would say you're a teacher and you've been in the United States, you have no criminal period, but your green card expired, or you have a ticket or something bare minimum like that, they're just going to give you a court date, which is a year difference. They're going to give you a year to figure out what it is you need to do. But every case is different. But ICE is pretty much there cracking down on anyone and everyone. They're not just after people with violent charges, terrorist attack. They're after families. They're after parents that's been here for 30 years, but somehow never took the time or was able to update their status or to take care of their status, because from what I've told you and what I've experienced, it's not easy as people think to just go to immigration and say, hey, I'm here. Can I fill out some paperwork and give you some money so I can stay? No, it is. It's gonna be one door open, another door closed, another door. If you think you're almost there, think about it. You're going backwards. What happened is, if your name came up in their system by any means necessary, mine was probably because of my ticket from my DUI drop to reckless driving. So my name was in their database. So once your name is in their database, they could come get you at any point to put you to this proceeding of removable. So because my name was in their system, so my address, my information is in their system. So it could happen any day. It could happen on a Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. It just happened that day. I was home and I was leaving, and that was the day they choose to come and verified who I was. So once they asked me my name and I announced myself, they have the right to take me because that's who they came for anyway. So they came for me, Junior, Tucson. Once I verified who I was, they took me and brought me to county jail as I waited for ICE department itself, not the officers, but the department himself. Then they come do an interview of asking you what you've been doing and why they took you. Why they took you and why you're here and what they're gonna do with you. Are they gonna allow you to go back out and fight it from the street, as I say, or go see an immigration judge to give you a bond, or to a lot of, I would say, South Americans, they do not get that option. They get deported right away. They get, there's a plane that goes to Mexico and Honduras every week with hundreds of Mexicans in Honduras weekly. In immigration itself, I spent 5 months. From the time they got me to the time I was sent to Haiti, 5 months.
And how was it?
I think humans treat their dogs better than what they treat us in immigration, because I was transferred from Miami, Florida to Glades, Mohaven, from Mohaven to Orlando, from Orlando to Georgia, Folkestone, Georgia, from Folkestone, Georgia to Houston, Texas, from Houston, Texas to Livingston, Texas. And each time they transfer you, someone like me with no violence charges or anyone else, you are shackled like a Mexican prison, shackled from your hand to your waist and from both ankles. So you're treated like you have murdered somebody. And the way they talk to you, the way they treat you, like I said, a human treat their dogs better than what we were treated. Not every single one of them, but most of them, they treat us like we didn't belong. It's like, oh, you guys, doesn't matter what you're in. I remember being in Folkestone, and I spent some time in there, so I watched the people transition from people that, all right, I want to go home, to people not knowing exactly what was going with them, what was going to happen. And we had, I would say, a lot of younger people that was rowdy. And I remember they attacked someone that was working there, not an ICE officer, but just someone that worked the facility. And she went and got the warden of the facility. And when he came to our pod where we were at, he wanted our attention. He was talking, and why they attacked that lady for, she goes, it doesn't matter, you're all getting deported. Even though we all get a fighting chance, and most of us get a fighting chance, but that's what she told them, and so they reacted the way they reacted. We are human too. We should get a fighting chance. And so when he got there and they told him what she said, and he looked us, I was furious when I heard it. He said, she's right. You all are getting deported. It's like, wow, that's how you want to treat people. We're someone's child, just like you have kids. We are someone's loved ones. Some of them are married, but no, they treat you like trash. what they feed you, how they treat you, and there's a facility which is their, let's say, one of the most popular one. It's Chrome. It's military meat maximum prison. They tell you when to eat, when to sleep, when to shower, when to do everything. And everything you do, it's open. So I can, while I'm showering, I can see you sit down watching the TV or playing cards or on the phone. It's one open bay. And then that's that one. And then the one that was in Livingston, Texas, that one was a elementary meat maximum crazy people loony bin prison. It was 1 square that you did everything in. Sleep, bathroom, shower, eat, and hang out, I would say, in a 12 by 42 room size. Everything you did, and there was 24 people in there.
24.
24. There was some that was, where I was in 24. There was one room that was probably 8 by 8. That was with 8 people. And then there was probably a 12 by 12 room that was with.
And how much time did you pass in this room?
That one was 3.5 weeks. It felt like 2 months. It was brutal. There was no windows. There was no window. No, you don't see outside. You don't see the sun. You don't see anything. The only thing you get to see is the people you're with and the person that come and feeds you 3 times a day and the person that bring you cleaning supplies.
And how was the food?
Mystery. If people understand what I'm saying, it's mystery. It's whatever they can put together and call it a meal, that's what you're going to get. The story, he wasn't there itself, but it's a story I've heard from another,
Okay.
my mother had shared with me. It was a doctor that lived in Michigan. And he was out at a picnic or a barbecue with his family. And ICE immigration came and got him from that event and took him away. I do not know the outcome yet, but again, you're put through a proceeding. He's been here since 1972. But and there I've, in immigration proceeding myself, I met people. I met a Colombian gentleman named, I do believe his name is Julian, or he has been invited to the White House when Obama was there. He does a lot of good work and for his community. He's big in his church. I saw the invitation that his wife sent in, older men, and I do not know what his outcome was. I believe, because his was for, unfortunately, one day he just yelled at his wife in public, so he was arrested, but later no charges dropped. But once again, as long as you have been ran through any criminal history, ICE will come get you. So all type of people are gonna go through that proceeding once you have been ran through any type of criminal history. And for example, just said you did a lot of bad deeds, but you paid your time for it. But if you are in county jail or state prison, it used to be when you're done, you just get to go home. But now, ICE has it too, the government has it too, no matter if you're citizen, immigrant, permanent residency, child, father, wife, you have to get your name run through the system. And if you're not a U.S. citizen, you will automatically, instead of your release date, you will get sent to an ICE facility for your removable proceeding. So some people do 5 years. I met a guy that did 5 years, and instead of release date, he got sent back to Jamaica because you go straight to.
When they decided to deport you, it was 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks. January 16th was the day I was removed, personally.
What happened?
It was, I want to say they get you at, on the 15th, Monday, it was about 7 o'clock. They take, I was with my fellow countrymen, fellow Haitians. They took, I want to say, about 30 of us. They took us all at once, and then you go through a proceeding. Everyone was different, but I was with a group of 5 or 6 other men. And you get changed and out of your lovely orange uniform or red, depends what kind of charges you had previously, and or any charge at all. You get changed into a sweat pants, fatigue, shirt and sweatpants, and then that proceeding starts at 7. It started at 7 p.m. on Monday, and it didn't end till I arrived to Haiti, I want to say at 12 or 1 o'clock, and the whole time you're in shackles. You use the restroom in shackles, you eat bologna and cheese sandwiches, or just cheese sandwiches and the water while you're in shackles. So you're trying to eat, if you can imagine, shackled to your waist and your hand, and you're trying to bend down and eat at the same time. So that's how they transfer you. And once I got to Haiti, because of what as I told you earlier, I accepted a judge proceeding of just voluntary departure, voluntarily leaving without the final order of deportees. I was supposed to be treated as soon as I got to Haiti. I was supposed to just let go and just go about on my way to find out where I needed to go, but I was not. Again, I'm used to it. Immigration, ICE, government lied to me and my father, because what they told us, what they promised us and what they told us and what happened to me was the opposite. And talking about that situation, for anyone that is deported to Haiti, if you do not have family here, you're held up to 30 days in another Haitian facility. So not only you get removed from the country you're living in, they send you here in handcuffs. And then when you get to Haiti, if you don't have family to come get you, which I was lucky enough to have one of the guys that was there, his family was there, and he got one of his family members to sign for me, so I was released. But there was 3 individuals that did not have family show up for them. So they were put in another holding facility while in Haiti. So in my opinion, that's wrongdoing of your birth country you are getting sent to. So it's just, unfortunately.
How much days did you pass in Haiti?
How many days I was in Haiti?
How many days?
I spent 7 days.
And then?
I was blessed to have one of my good friends be coming in DR, where I am in a proceeding of just trying to find out where my next chapter will begin of my life. So right now I am in DR with loved ones and family and friends, and trying to work on a visa to go to Europe for 90 days just to see what opportunities I could. I'm in the Dominican Republic working on getting a visa to Europe to see where, next chapter of my life would start, or where would I go and see what opportunities there is other than U.S. as I'm still fighting quietly to find ways to reunite with my family in the States. But right now is just to basically just find a way to survive wherever I end up.
And what kind of people did you met in the immigration prison? You told us about the Somalian people.
Yes. Oh, I hope by now they are free. There was about 100 and something Somalians that was treated unhumanly, treated as worse than dirt. They were Somalians that never made it to the country. They paid a lot of money, tried to go illegally, which is not right, but everyone has a dream. And then there was the people, Somalians, that was been there for years and years and years. And it was the time they were gonna get shipped to Somalia, just like we got shipped to Haiti. And their government, I respect it, does not accept them. Once they leave, they go somewhere else to better, especially in the U.S. They will tell the U.S., hey, we do not want these individuals, where that means the U.S. have to release them or hold on to them maximum of 90 days and release them, and then they would have to check in every so often with them till they can try to send them back. But this last trip, when they tried to take them, the Somalians were captured for 42 hours, I do believe, or 48 hours, in handcuffs in the plane because their country would not take them back. So ICE officers tried to get them to walk from one country to Somalia, which they refused. That's good. And just treating them is unbelievable. I don't know the full story, but I do know that long in handcuffs, staying in the planes, they got fed up and they spoke up. And I do believe there was fights happening. Someone might have got injured. And then that story got out in public. So the human rights had got them a total of 15 lawyers to help them fight their case, because how they were treated for that long of a time, it's ridiculous. So I know on January 22nd, they were supposed to get an answer. I do hope they won their case and they were able to stay in the U.S. freely, and so they continue their life, and especially the ones that, went through all that, going through that, I hope they made it, but I do not know. But that is, unfortunately, that's what ICE is doing to people now. It's just treating you unhumanly, treating you as you're worse than dirt, treating you like you don't matter.
How did you feel when you were arrested?
The best way to describe that, at first, I was shocked, but I wasn't angry. And then once it sank in, I was like, oh, it's okay. I'm gonna be released in no time. I didn't do anything. I don't know what's going on, but worst come to worst, they'll give me a court date or give me a bond. I thought I would get a bond, and then I would continue working until I figure it out. But that was the last time I ever went home. The last time I ever stepped foot on my property where I was staying, last time for anything. I never got to see anything of U.S. as a free man after that day.
And in what kind of state of mind you were during these 5 months of in jail?
My state of mind changed. At first, as I said, I was shocked. Then from then, I thought I would get a bond. And then from there, as I did not know little about immigration, I just with my background, I just assumed I would get the opportunity. There's that I believe there's no way someone could look at me in my face and tell me I don't have the right to stay here. This is all I know. This is everything's bad that's happened to me in my life has happened here. I have people that love me. My family's here. I did not speak in Creole that good. I just so much. I just looked at. I believed that I was gonna get to go home, and then from there, as I learned more about immigration, and you learn about a lot about people too in immigration. You meet some people that's rooting for others, and then you meet some people that's already lost. They want you to be where they're at, miserable. So you learn who you want to be affiliated with, who you want around you, what kind of people. And the more I found about immigration, I became more positive because my father was there with me every day picking up my phone call. My good friend was picking up my phone call just for encouragement to remind me something good will come out of this. And I remember in October 23rd, when I lost, I was in shock. I was in more shock than I've ever been in my life when she told me the decision of that my rights was over to be in the States. I was in complete shock. I just sat there for a while and I accepted it, but I was in shock. And I remember sitting there, not full of tears, but just like wondering again, like, wow, this is it. This is the way I exit the only thing I know. And as I got back, I called my father. My father gave me a great word of advice, like, hey, there was an opportunity. We knew this might happen. And yes, I did. So I took it. I took time to meditate, to clear my mind. And then from there, I just started looking forward. Not looking backward, not wondering anything like that. I just accepted it and moved forward. And as I continue to do now, just look forward and just embracing what I'm going through now. Now I'm just enjoying my free legs, that I can walk places, that I can do what I want for now.
When you arrived in Dominican Republic and you were at the beach and stuff like that, I mean, it was
amazing for me. It's the closest thing I had that feels good in 5.5 months. I was able to enjoy it, play the music, call my friend, and enjoy the view with him. One of my good friends, like enjoying, like, hey, look what I am. And so, honestly, it still haven't hit home yet exactly what happened to me, I would say. I'm still in shock, but I think I was blessed. So far, when I got to Haiti, I had a group there, a women's group that knew my story, and they allowed me tag along with their mission work. I was able to work with kids. I was able to be around them. I was able to feed off their energy, and they cared. So I didn't come to Haiti alone. I came with a group. So that wasn't what I expected. It was even 100 times better. And now I'm in the Dominican Republic. As I said before, I'm surrounded by loved ones. So again, it have not hit home yet. I do believe when it hits home, I will go in a certain place and to just meditate for a while. But as of right now, I'm still not alone. I have people that's contact me as much as they can, checking on me. I have people with me now. I have people that to make sure I'm not alone. So I just think people is not letting me feel alone. So maybe I'll never get that feeling aloneness or not belonging, because my whole life's been that. But right now, even though I'm at the one place where I don't belong and I don't feel alone at all, because I am loved by so many people. I am embraced and sending so much love to me that I don't know. I don't know when it's gonna hit, but I hope it never does. I hope I just get to continue just moving into the next chapter after the next chapter until maybe one day I reunite with my family, or one day building my own family.
What was the reaction of your parents during all this process?
My dad, he's too cool, man. He just knows how to deal with things more, just a certain ways that he doesn't lose his cool at all. And my mom, again, she's just my hero. When I was having the most difficult time while I was in the detention center, and it was Christmas, and I've always been with my family for Christmas, always. And somehow she knew exactly what to say. She sent me, I got to see her, it was through a glass window before I left, but I got to see her, and she brought me pictures of my family, because that's my inspiration. That's what I need whenever I'm down, is my family. Even if it's a picture or calling my sisters, just talking to them, it lifts me up. It reminds me of what I have. So, but she wrote exactly what I needed to hear in this letter, specifically to me from her, not from the family, which that's what she normally does, but she has individually remove herself as the family like she always is. She has been contacting me as my mother, as my hero, as my mentor, as everything. She wrote me a letter just letting me know I helped her out. I never knew that, but she told me how I helped her out to be closer to God, to help her business. She is one of the best photographers in the state of Florida. And I know I helped her started it, because I got her the first few jobs, because we're doing DJing weddings. They always ask me, I'm like, oh, my mother, because she did my senior pictures for me in high school. She did pictures that I sent to my birth mother one time, long time ago. So I always knew, like, hey, she's good.
Can you explain me your relation with your biological parents? Because when you arrived in Haiti, did you get in touch with them?
No. Unfortunately, I think it's the culture of my peoples, but the few times I used to reach out to my birth family, I do not know them personally, because I've been gone so long. I've not seen them. I didn't talk to them till, I want to say, a couple years back. But when I did go out and I did make sure I got in contact with my birth mother, it was a lot of guilt trip. It was guilt trip that I have not returned to Haiti. It was guilt trip that wasn't sending money every day. It was guilt trip. It was a lot of guilt trips of just why I haven't done certain things to, I guess, the relationship. But for me, all I've been through, that's not what I want to hear from someone that said they love me and wants to see me. It's supposed to be, in my opinion, hey, I can't wait till you come one day that I can see you again. Not, do you not want to see your mother? You want to see me before I die? What about if I die tomorrow? And for me, and what my background is, when that happens, I pull away. So I talked to my mother, and when I told my mom how my birth mother was making me feel, and she told me the best thing, she said, if she's making you feel that way, then you don't have to accept it. And even when I was sending money, I would send her money, then I would get calls from cousins, brothers, sisters, random people I did not know asking me for money. And I don't know if you know how Haiti works, but no matter if they're good or if they're in a good situation or not, they're always gonna ask for more. So eventually I cut off all ties, then I re-picked it back up with my birth mother, and again, sent her money. Then I would get random phone calls at 3 a.m., 2 a.m. from random people, so I cut ties off again. And the reason why I did not look for my birth mother while I was in Haiti, I don't think I'm ready. At this stage of my life, I don't think I'm ready, because I don't know who I am right now. Right now, I don't have, per se, a plan or anything. And in my opinion, I'm returning home empty-handed with nothing. And I do believe if she would see me empty-handed or not, she would still embrace me. But I think as much pressure that's gonna be on me, I'm not ready. So what I'm hoping for is in May, my mother's making a trip from US to Haiti, that I'm going to do it with my mother to find my mother.
But do you think that she knows what happened?
Perhaps not. I would think so, because my nephew in Haiti, Rudy, he knows I'm here. He's been with me.
You mean that the son of your half sister is in Haiti too?
Yes.
Why? He was deported?
Yes, he was deported.
When?
He was deported 10 years ago. I still do not know why, but 10 years ago he was deported. So he's been in Haiti for a long time. And he helped me for the few days I was in Haiti, how certain things work out. But I've always kept a close relationship with my nephews, all of them. Even though me and my sister didn't see eye to eye and whatnot, but my nephews never did anything to me. So I have always been there as much as I can for my nephews, because they're my nephews. And for me, I grew up with them. So, but he's in Haiti, he knows I'm here, but I also told him I didn't want anyone knowing I was in Haiti. I'm sure other people know because of social media and whatnot, but again, if no one knows where I'm at, you can't really, but again, I'll know a lot more, a lot sooner once I figure out my plan and my mind is clear. I will go find more and more people that I do believe is here.
Where do you see yourself in the future?
In the near future, I do not know what's clear, but within the next year, I want to be helping people. I don't want to come to Haiti or Dominican Republic or Europe and just be like, oh, poor me. I got deported from the only place I know where my family is. I plan on wherever I bounce and land, I plan on making a difference, because my joy in life has always been when someone else is happy or when someone else is doing good. That's my joy of life, because I mean, I'm doing good because I'm laughing, and my laughter is part of me. My smile is part of my positive attitude. It's all part of me, and it helps when people I know or people I may see is doing good. It could be in life, it could be in the day, it doesn't matter. That's what I want to be doing in my future, is helping wherever that may be. People may not understand the whole immigration system, because since my story has been out, my mother posted of what happened to me and our situation, my situation, what happened. Everyone has their own opinion how exactly immigration works. But it's not as easy as people think. If it was easy, everyone would be legally in the U.S. Everyone would be permanent, right? Everyone would be in a certain scenario. But if you don't know it, I just recommend that you take a couple hours out of your week or your month. Just do some research so you can have better understanding of what people like me go through, or people that will go through, because knowledge is key. And the more you know, instead of debating about it, just find out information. And then you will understand where all these people are coming from. Because not every country is US, not every country is Australia, not every country is London, or all these high-end countries. There's still countries like Haiti, Congo, South Africa, Honduras, and South America that people are trying to do a better life, get a better life. And you may not make it in your own country, and you want the opportunity to go somewhere else. But I just recommend take a little bit of time out of your day, do the research, see exactly what people are going through. Yes, the story you see may not always be the full truth, but it makes a lot of sense. So find out the story behind the story and why it got there. So